America's Wild West, surely one of this great country's last wildernesses. Its name is, to me, more a statement of freedom than an actual place. This is a region where the cowboy is still king, and the heat, the dust, the life-changing vistas, and the ethos that comes with a hard-won way of life is still all-pervading. I've planned a 1,600-mile route to experience as much of the dichotomy of this fabled landscape as I can. So I'm heading east from Santa Rosa, just north of San Francisco, through California, up into Nevada, and on into the wilds of Idaho and Wyoming, to Journey's End in Billings, Montana. And while I'm about it, discover whether the Wild West of today is truly one of the world's greatest motorcycle rides. But first, time to head to the chop shop in Santa Rosa to pick up my iron horse to ride America's Wild West.
What amazes me time and time again is I think when I come to a place anywhere in the world that I'll never be here again. But you know what? 9 times out of 10, I'm wrong.
This little bike shop is Santa Rosa V-Twin, and it was here where I embarked on my ride south down California's Highway 1. Never did I ever think I'd pick up another bike from here, but so often, truth is stranger than fiction. 2 years on, Preston and his team have survived the credit crunch and are thriving, and hopefully, with his no-nonsense approach, I might get a real insight into what my ride might hold in store.
I never thought I'd be here again. It's lovely to see you.
Good to see you.
Now look, you know we were doing Highway 1 last time.
Yeah?
Now we're riding the Wild West. Any advice?
Yeah, it's not going to be very fun.
Why do you say that?
Nothing there.
Does anyone else take that route ever?
No, not very often. It's not something they do for fun.
Okay, so good restaurants? Good hotels?
No.
Any gas stations?
Maybe.
And what are the people like?
Not a whole lot of them.
Well, that's not gone well at all. The ride may look bleak, but let's just hope the same can't be said for my companion on the trip.
So, as always, it's that time to get acquainted with my new steed.
Over the last few years, I've ridden the predictable on Route 66, the lurid on Highway 1, and the outright crazy down America's East Coast. That means, I guess, there's only one more way I can go.
So there's probably no alternative but to unleash the beast.
And they don't come more frightening than this. It goes by the name of a griffin, made by a load of nutters at Saxon Motorcycles in Phoenix. It sports an Arizona Loud 1800cc S&S motor with an exhaust note that fast-tracks anyone over 45 to the joys of a hearing aid. It has a huge 300mm rear tyre, and a paint job has been crafted from the leftovers of the Devil's new bedroom wallpaper. It's going to take all my experience of these ridiculous machines to ultimately tame this beast.
This bike may be a beast, but like all beasts, once you tame it, it's very comfortable to ride.
So time to quench the devil's thirst and take stock.
Well, we've got two options now. We can either do interstate, or we can go country roads for the next 76 miles for our nightly stop in a place called Woodlands. Now, because this bike has a 300mm rear tyre, which is kind of the biggest you can get on a custom chop, I'm going to go for the country roads, because if there is a problem, best to know now.
As I set sail en route to Woodlands, slicing through the Napa Valley, home to Californians wine production, Preston's words of warning are ringing in my ears. But what he doesn't realise is I love unforgiving terrain and endless miles of nothing. That's what biking is all about, true and unfettered freedom. A this road through the Sierra Nevada mountains calls on all my experience to forge a safe passage along this tangled ribbon of tarmac. Glorious vistas give way to mile upon mile of challenging and often ever-tightening corners. But remarkably, this bike isn't frightening, it's just got a mind of its own.
Well, taking the A-roads rather than the interstate is the baptism of fire with this. But it may look as though it doesn't handle, but I have to tell you, this bike is remarkably nimble. You have to throw it into the corners, alright, and you have to really sort of lean in, and if you do think, oh, I'm a bit scared, then you'll start to drift. So the thing is you just need to set up for the corner, make sure you got the right line as quickly as you can, and head on into it with a bit of aggression.
Heading on to Woodlands, the mountain road continues to delight, but as the dying embers of my first day begin to engulf me, I come off the mountains and enter a new world. The first clues to what lies ahead. Mile upon mile of arrow straight highway, flanked by pancake flat fertile land. This must be the start of the Wild West, and as night falls, I arrive elated in the small town of Woodlands.
Well, it just gives an idea of how wonderful that was, only that I'm still in a t-shirt and I'm boiling hot. That was a fantastic ride and a great way to start the trip. But I have to say, I do think that Preston might be right, that we're riding into oblivion.
Next morning, the agricultural prowess of Woodland is all-encompassing. Only 70 miles inland from the freneticism and cutting-edge modernity of San Francisco, it's like I've arrived on another planet. An alien landscape where farmers rule and time is measured by a crop's germination.
Oh, it's rather lovely here in Woodland this morning. Now, Woodland, I'm told, was until the 1850s a kind of one-horse town, but since then has now become the kind of centre for America's crop or agricultural production. Now, today we're going to ride, in glorious sunshine hopefully, 160 miles of those arable lands towards Lake Tahoe. But first, I'm going to see a man about a truck. On the outskirts of Woodland is a hugely impressive museum called the Heydrich Agricultural History Centre, and next door is the Hayes Antique Truck Museum. Together they both lovingly chart the development of America's agricultural machinery, both the gargantuan machines that cultivated the land and those that brought the produce to the masses. It's a fascinating display, complete with over 200 vehicles and a fitting celebration of this region's agricultural roots. But for curators Bev and Dale, there's much more fun to be had in the car park. So they don't just show them here, they're not just on display. These guys are passionate about actually running them. And isn't that just a wonderful thing, to actually see these old trucks doing what they're designed for?
This venerable truck dates back to 1918, and just trundling around the car park imbues an insight into an era when everybody was aspiring to look after their needs rather than their wants, and a time when America was truly the land of the free and the home of the brave.
That's the best part I've had in a car park since my first girlfriend.
Curator Bev has told me of a rather eccentric gentleman with an obsession for American memorabilia a few miles down the road. In the middle of a quiet residential street, Mark Reef has turned his all-American white picket fence suburban house into a purely decorative garage that harks back to the halcyon days of 50s American cool.
This is an incredible place, Mark. It's a residential area. How do you get a garage in a residential area?
Made it. I actually made it, yeah. One day, bought a pump 9 years ago from a guy for $75 at a garage sale. And probably 6 months after that, I'm standing in my living room window looking out at my front yard. It had lawn, picket fence, all that foo-foo crap. And I said, this would be cool to have 50 gas station out there. So this is what's happened. So there was no rhyme or reason why I did this. It just took off, and it's become what it is.
What Mark has created here is something incredibly special. For him, it's a love that he wants to share with as many people as possible, not a money-making concern, so entry is free. And this afternoon, it's the turn of the local Ford Model T car club to take full advantage.
Now, for all of us who love American bikes, American cars, it all really started with the Model T, didn't it?
Yeah,
Why was it so successful?
I think it was successful because it was so simple. That was its success. He continued to make the car very similar for many years, and then it became cheaper because of that, until more people could buy them. The people that built them could buy them, and then that just kind of put everybody on the road. There were more expensive and better cars at the time, but they all cost a lot of money.
It's difficult to see the lineage from the Model T to my monstrous job, but perhaps it's just the legacy handed down from our forefathers of a never-ending passion to ride the American dream. As I cruise through what's known as Dead Cat Alley, I head out of town in search of Highway 50, on which I'm going to ride some 165 miles round the south shore of Lake Tahoe and into Nevada and into the desert and eventually Virginia City. The sun beats down on mile upon mile of America's agricultural heartland that rushes towards me, bathed in evening sun. The 50 is a busy 6-lane highway, but already I'm getting this feeling of embarking on a true adventure, a vital ingredient to complement any long ride. Another ingredient, however, is gas.
Well, I must admit, I wasn't expecting a 6-lane carriageway with an awful lot of people on it. I guess it's Saturday afternoon and I really don't know where I'm going. But we have done about 60 miles now on the way to Lake Tahoe, and it's getting very piney. That's all I could describe it as, piney.
With the 50 reducing to one lane, I start to climb up again into the joys of the Sierra Nevada mountains. Now the sweet smell of the El Dorado pine forests are almost stifling, and with the road starting to tighten up, when I have the chance to take a look, I'm treated to some quite breathtaking views. All too soon, Lake Tahoe appears through the trees, described by Mark Twain as the fairest picture the whole earth affords. Alas, since Twain's eulogy, every self-respecting yuppie has a holiday home here, a ski pass and a four-wheel drive, and the views are blighted by the footprint left by America's aspirational ridge. As quickly as it came, Lake Tahoe is left behind, the dazzling rays of a now Nevada sunset. As the light fades and I descend from the mountains into the deserts and onto Virginia City, I soon arrive on a serious high.
You know what? That has to be some of the best riding I've done in America. 3 hours, or probably nearly 4 hours, of totally different landscapes. Mountainous, beautiful Lake Tahoe, and then down into Nevada and into the desert. Absolutely sublime.
The morning brings views from another century. A century when the daily quest for freedom here in Virginia City often concluded by looking down the barrel of a Colt 45. This is the America of today that I've yearned to be a part of.
Well, I think yesterday really summed up for me why I love riding so much in this country. We started off in America's agricultural heartland. We went through some of the finest mountain scenery you could wish for, and now we're here in, for us, the gateway of America's Wild West.
Virginia City is the oldest established town in Nevada, built on an illustrious and often violent history of gold and silver mining exploration. And us English played an integral part in that gold rush. Local character Jim has lovingly restored the only stamp mill left in the world that crushed the all-rich rocks.
Cornish miners brought it over here when they came to mine gold because the strike on the hill was so rich they gave up mining lead, came here to mine gold. So they brought these diagrams and things with them from England.
So us English played a part.
That's right, English played a great part. Without these mills they couldn't have got the gold. You go back 150 years, your ancestors brought these here to the United States.
So I guess mining these hills was one of the first examples of that special relationship between our two countries. Down the hill though, just out of town, the present is being brought bang up to date.
Magical. Absolutely magical. For the unconverted, I guess, the desert is an absolute and utter wilderness of nothing. But to us petrol heads, it is the ultimate playground.
Every year this 5-mile-long stretch of road plays host to the Virginia City Hill Climb, an event established by the Ferrari Club of America. But if you remember, you can run what you brung, and that means Ferraris battle it out to be the fastest up the hill with Mustangs, Corvettes, and even the odd GT40. Frank has been organising this octane-fueled jamboree for the last 10 years.
This track, you know, is it forgiving or not, or is it very, very difficult?
It's difficult. I mean, yeah, you could drive the middle of the road and do your thing. We don't make anyone go fast or go slow. Just doing the comfort zone. We don't try to push anybody up here, and it's not forgiving. You know, you've got, if it's not this bank, it's a cliff. You know, so if you do go off, it's, you know, it's a 50-50 chance that you could get hurt.
Well, Ferraris today might be one of the fastest means of transportation, but in the 1850s, only 150 years ago, things were a whole lot different.
Here in Virginia City, thanks to Gary and his wife Nancy, you can experience firsthand what the supercar of the 1850s was really like to ride. The stagecoach was the fastest way to get from A to B, in some cases even quicker than the railroad. This ride is an absolute must. It may look like a show purely for the tourist like me, but make no mistake, Gary is a real cowboy, and his insight into the Wild West and the Nevada of today is, to say the least, alarming.
We still shoot people here in Nevada. I mean, you call it the Wild West, we call it justice. You know, if you've got justification for shooting somebody, it's fine. You sometimes have to go to court, but if you're justified, you're not going to jail for it in Nevada. You know, if the bastard need killing, kill him. It's as simple as that. I know in other states here in America, they'll prosecute people, put them in prison for life, and we don't understand why. Why feed somebody that don't need to live? You put a bullet in them and you're done with them. You can deal with his family later if they want to come back for revenge. Man needs killing, kill him.
To me, Gary's views are shocking. Whether they're true or not, I don't particularly want to find out, but either way, best not to try your luck with Gary or anyone else here. Heading out of Virginia City to Pyramid Lake, the road is stunning. It's so gratifying to be back in the desert. As far as Gary is concerned, it's one of the last places in America where your destiny still may rest with the individual. This liberation comes at a price. Nevada is ranked the most dangerous state in America, with crime rates 24% higher than anywhere else, namely due to the dark side of legalized gambling and prostitution. With the heat and the sun relenting, I arrive at Pyramid Lake, tired, dusty, but as ever fulfilled. A good night's sleep is foremost in my mind. Next morning, the lapping waters of Pyramid Lake are audible from my motel room, beckoning me to take a closer look, and I don't need much persuasion.
Pyramid Lake is the most wonderful vista to wake up to. This place actually is a tiny part of what is left of a massive ocean that once covered this whole area. But it's not the scientific interest about Pyramid Lake that's so important, it's its place in Native American history.
Mythology tells that the lake was the birthplace of the Native American people in Nevada. The Stone Mother was the heavenly goddess that gave birth to their tribes, and she's said to still visit the most sacred part of the lake, one of the smaller pyramid-like rock formations in its centre. For Native Americans like Sherry, this lake is a very special place.
The spirituality of the lake is who we are. This is our origin, and a lot of the native tribes in Nevada have their origin here at Pyramid Lake with the story of the Stone Mother, who was really kind of the creator of all the people in this area, all of the native people in this area. And this is like our church. This is the beauty and connection to the earth that we hold very dear to us.
Pyramid Lake is some 15 miles long and 11 miles wide, and for trout fishermen the world over it's a mecca. The lake is home to the cutthroat trout, and it boasts the world record for the biggest cutthroat ever caught. Angler or not, this place is an oasis in the middle of the desert. It's somewhere to sit and regain a sense of spirituality in this ever-turbulent, secular world.
Pyramid Lake is lovely, but thinking ahead now, we've got about 300 miles to ride today, so a long ride. And doing it on this bike doesn't get anything nicer really. It's really comfy and just thuds along. So we're looking forward to probably about 260 miles of Interstate 80. Now they say there's a lot of roadworks, but hopefully there won't be too much traffic and we'll have some wonderful riding.
Before I reach the interstate, the road out of town is beautiful. I'm constantly accompanied by the azure blue waters of the lake and the relentless heat of the mid-morning sunshine. Desert riding doesn't get much better. The road is predictable yet rewarding, and the scenery serenely calm and reflective. My first impressions of Interstate 80, however, are slightly disheartening. Let's hope these roadworks aren't a constant companion. As I push ever onward, Interstate 80 begins to enthrall. Either side, nothing. Straight ahead, not much more. Just sun, sand, and solitude, and I'm in heaven, a place I could stay forever. But as my tamed and now somewhat affectionate beast only has at best 150 miles worth of gas in the tank, my need for a fill-up is never far from my thoughts.
Well, it's nice to take a break from the interstate. We've done about 100 miles, I think, and we're here at a little place called Lovelock. So we've got about 200 to go before we get to Elko. And I'm really enjoying it. Weather's perfect, bike's thudding along, and the road so far is excellent.
On the interstate, it's gratifying to know that this part of I-80 has the reputation as being America's loneliest interstate. I keep reflecting on what Preston said to me in Santa Rosa, warning me of there being nothing out here. Well, so far, he couldn't be more wrong. This route celebrates diversity, freedom and individualism with every bend or endless horizon. For me, the constant buffeting of the wind noise, all-pervading heat, magical scenery, and hypnotic thud of my massive V-twin imparts a virtually trance-like state. The 200 miles pass me by in a flash.
Wow, we made it. And we made it in one piece to Elko. That was 300 miles of phenomenal riding. And you know what, in that 300 miles, I reckon I went round about 2 bends. Well, I'm tired and I'm slightly achy, but this bike is phenomenal.
Well, as ever, the joys of Elco will have to wait till the morning.
Outwardly, Elco just seems to be, on first impressions, like any other small town in the desert. Huge great car parks surrounded by little gambling casinos, but actually the town does have an incredible history. Oddly, Elco was put on the map in the 1800s as the centre for sheep rearing in the US. The best exponents of the art were sheep herders from the Basque region of Spain who flocked here to share their knowledge with the locals. They still, to this day, play a major part in Elco's community. Elco is also famed for being the centre of the cowboy culture in the region, even hosting the annual Cowboy Poetry Gathering. It's also home to the most famous saddle makers and cowboy outfitters in the state, J.M. Capriolas. Paula, you've made some saddles for some very well-known people, haven't you?
A few. Ronald Reagan, Lyndon Johnson, Sylvester Stallone, he's not president, but we made him 3 saddles.
So, I mean, how long does it take to make a saddle?
The base saddle would be 50 hours, and then it can go up from there. It depends on how fancy you get with all of the intricate design, silver work.
All this wonderfully intricate motifs and all that kind of stuff. I mean, is that hand-drawn? It isn't a template?
It's all hand-done.
So everything is individual. I mean, every one is different.
Everyone is different.
The sky's the limit when it comes to the prices of these bespoke saddles. This one, for instance, will set you back around $16,000. Back in my saddle, I've hooked up with Bilbo and his mates from the Elco Bike Club to ride what they assure me is one of the finest routes in the area, some 30 miles of mountain road up the Lamoille Canyon, starting a few miles out of town. And they're not wrong, the views are quite breathtaking, reminding me of Alpine Europe, but under a 90-degree sun. For Bilbo, Stevie and the rest of the club, this is their favourite Sunday afternoon ride. Come October, when the road is impassable with snow, they just swap Harleys for snowmobiles and carry on as normal. How perfect is that?
Do you understand how lucky you guys are to have these kind of roads?
We do, and we don't bring very many people up here.
How are people treated here who ride a bike?
As we were coming over the Lamoille Summit, you know, we were doing 45, 50, speed limit's 55. Nobody passed us.
Yeah.
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 There's a reason for that.
Okay. I get the message. Yeah. In England, we always thought that Harley Davidson's was the American ride, and if you rode anything else, then perhaps that was a different thing going on. But I've found over the years that I've been riding here that it just doesn't matter no more, you know?
It really doesn't. It really doesn't. I mean, we let you come along on a Saxon.
Yeah, no, I know. I do know that. And I must say...
Absolutely, you do have the finest paint job of all the bikes here, so that's a plus.
Yeah, do you think so?
Yeah, you'll fit in with the rest of us.
I think Stevie's doing quite well with his banana yellow.
Not bad.
Is that a bit of orange flake down there, Stevie?
Yeah, I think there's some pink flakes in there somewhere too, if you look real close.
But I mean, these ape hanger bars, they're not very good on the wind resistance front, are they?
Well, neither am I.
Coming off the mountain road to resume my love affair with Interstate 80, I think I can sum up today in one word: gratitude. Gratitude for being able to experience these roads, but above all, gratitude for being able to meet people like Bilbo and his mates, true bikers and kindred spirits who, like people all over this land, immediately offer unconditional warmth and hospitality to an old, known biker like me. Now on the 80, it's back to systems normal, arrow straight blacktop, giving way to astonishing views. But as ever, time to rein in the beast and get some gas.
Whoosh! My bum is a little bit numb, as they say. But along with the country and western music. We're here in Wells, which is about 60 miles from Elko, and halfway to Jackpot. And again, the I-80 doesn't disappoint at all. It's got to be one of my favourite highways. Anyway, we're getting on the 93 now after I've gassed up, and getting to Jackpot, hopefully, before nightfall.
As the orange glow of evening envelops me, the 93 begins to imbue a feeling of humility and real isolation as I forge on into this sea of emptiness with only my shadow for company. The feelings are made even more raw by the falling light and plummeting temperatures, but soon enough my night's rest gleams in the distance.
Oh, we made it! That was so cold. It's incredible how the minute the sun goes down here in the desert, it gets so cold. But we're here in Jackpot, which is actually the frontier town of Nevada going into Idaho. I'm freezing cold, and the joys of Jackpot will have to wait till the morning.
Well, good morning from Jackpot. Now, Jackpot is a tiny little frontier town. The economy really is from gambling, but you can go pheasant shooting here and also play a round of golf. But it marks the end of our ride in Nevada. And I must say, I'm really sorry to go, but just a mile up the road there is the state line to Idaho. So Idaho beckons, and as I ride across the state line, I must remember to put my watch forward an hour. Initially, Idaho looks just like Nevada, but soon enough, pockets of green agricultural fertility sprinkle the landscape. Idaho is famed for its farming prowess, but as I ride through the bustling town of Twin Falls and across the Snake River, my thoughts turn to my hero, Evel Knievel, who tried to jump the River Canyon here in 1974 on a rocket bike. He crashed and burnt, but at least he survived to go and crash again somewhere else. Soon I arrive in the town of Pockerillo. Rather depressingly, it's only the usual fare on offer for lunch.
Well, welcome to Pockerillo. Much as I'd like to tell you that food in America has developed, it hasn't really, and our staple diet are these. Yet another one.
It's no surprise then that I haul myself back on the beast, feeling decidedly unusual. Fortunately though, it's only some 30 miles to our stop for the day in the tiny little rural town of Blackfoot.
Well, why are we here in Blackfoot? Well, Blackfoot just happens to be the epicentre for what Idaho is actually famous for, and that is the growing of potatoes. So proud are they of that fact that they've dedicated a museum here to the humble spud.
Idaho is known as the potato state and produces over 55% of all America's potatoes, including probably the ones I had for lunch. I've done a few museums in my time, but this one surely wins first prize for the delightfully absurd. You can feast your eyes on the biggest potato crisp in the world, complete with large crack, or one of the largest displays of potato mashers ever seen in the Americas. Or how about Marilyn Monroe wearing a potato sack, or even a display of some very rare potato snacks? Surely this place is not long for this world. With the credit crunch, it's probably had its chips. This morning we're heading up to Yellowstone National Park, some 120 miles away, passing through a small town called Rigby. But the beast won't even do the 20 miles to Riggers without a quick top-up.
I always imagined Idaho to be
sort of green and lush, but it's not at all. It's all arid, and actually if the land wasn't irrigated, I guess not a lot would grow here. Well, we're going to go on to Rigby and see what we can find there. And in Rigby was the birthplace of something that, if it hadn't happened, I certainly would be out of a job. Tanked up and rearing to go, the beast and I, with virtually 1 dalliance of a gear shift, arrive in Rigby. Well, outwardly, Rigby is just another small little town with a population of around 3,500 people. But thanks to the genius of one of its residents back in the 20s, it was the birthplace of television. The genius was one Philo T. Farnsworth, and he was the first man in the 20s to invent a way to transmit a picture from a makeshift camera to a TV in the next room. The first image was of his wife, displayed here with loads of other fascinating artifacts in the local museum. How he did this was so complicated, I gave up the will to live listening, but suffice it to say, like all crazed inventors, he died potless as RCA took his idea, fought off his underfunded court case, and the rest is history. Now, personally, obviously, I owe Philo a huge debt of gratitude. But like all geniuses, he wasn't just working on TV. He also invented the baby incubator. He taught himself the violin. And right at the end of his life, he was working on nuclear fusion. Needless to say, he earned absolutely nothing from these either. Heading on to Yellowstone, a bald, now totally tamed, an almost friendly beast, my thoughts turn yet again to potatoes. Idaho may be iconic for the growing of said vegetable, but it was a Brit who grew the biggest, or 7 pounds 1 ounce of it. Happy days. As a tourist destination, Idaho is probably not high up on your top 10 list, and really it shouldn't be, but as a biker, it's a revelation. It's all about big skies, big roads, big thrills, but not such big potatoes. Well, we've only got about 50 miles to go, actually, to out of Idaho and into Wyoming. And what's exciting is into Yellowstone National Park tomorrow. But I've been riding along the last couple of days. I don't think I've actually seen a cloud in the sky. So when I saw that stuff over there, I thought, hey, look, that's going to be a bit of rain. But would you believe that is actually a fire raging over there? And I don't know whether that's in the park or not, but it looks like kind of a volcano or something. I hope it doesn't impede our progress. The forest fire is probably about 100 miles to the northeast, so poses no immediate danger, but most importantly, it doesn't dilute the sun or the afternoon heat. As I head towards the town of West Yellowstone, the arid landscape gives way to pine forests. It's only about 50 miles before the outskirts of town greet the beast and I, and I'm gutted the ride is over.
That's got to go down as one of the best rides in America. It's just wonderful. You come off sort of plains of Idaho and you rise up into these mountains.
Morning brings a very alpine feel to the proceedings. West Yellowstone is the gateway for lovers of the outdoor life into the world-famous national park. The tourist season runs for 12 months because opportunities abound to explore Yellowstone, both in the summer months and also in the snow-clad winters.
So we're going to head into Yellowstone National Park. Because I've never been there, I don't know what's going on. I thought I'd better gas up before I go in. Because it's about a 100-mile tour. And who knows whether there's a gas station in there.
I'm off to hook up with Ranger Brian, who's going to guide us through the park. Immediately though, this vast wilderness dwarfs my presence and quite simply blows my mind.
You know, it never ceases to amaze me, the diversity of landscapes in America. This is Yellowstone in all its glory, and it is absolutely magical. I've only been here about 15 minutes, but I'm smitten. How big is Yellowstone?
It's very big. It's 2.2 million acres.
Why is it called Yellowstone?
People ask that all the time.
Oh, right, sorry.
No, it's fine. I expect that. Park has got named from Yellowstone River.
Right.
The river was named Yellowstone before the park was. No one's really sure how the river got that name. We think maybe it's because the rocks in the canyon are kind of yellowish in color, but we're not really sure.
The park straddles Wyoming, Idaho and Montana, so I have no clue what state I'm in. This landscape was created by volcanic activity, and still to this day as you ride, you can smell the sulphur from the geysers. You can, if you fancy, pull over and wander at the boiling, gurgling waters or bubbling mud. Pushing deeper into the park, the awesome scenery becomes rather familiar, but it's the wildlife that frustrates my passage.
Well, that's called an animal jam. Got a very large bison. The trouble is you can't beat your horn here, you just gotta wait.
And a bit further on down the road, I might have found where those ridiculously large beasts are heading.
Incredible creatures. Brian tells me that they taste like beef. The rutting season, you'd be pleased to know, is over. So now it's a question of, oh, there's a little fracas going on down there. But I guess it's family life now for another year.
Yellowstone is home to a huge diversity of wildlife, including elk, moose bison, and a plethora of bears, either grizzly or your common black. A couple of miles down the road, I meet up with that forest fire again, but Brian assures me that these are common, often set off by lightning. Astonishingly, the park authorities just leave them to burn themselves out, and it's no big deal. In fact, the life cycles of the flora and fauna in the park relies on them. Luckily, I didn't embarrass myself looking for a bucket. But just as I head out of the park, with Brian probably glad to see the back of us, there's one more vista to wonder at.
Well, what a glorious view to finish off the ride through Yellowstone. This is the Elora Falls on the Yellowstone River, and it's absolutely divine. Now, if you want to ride Yellowstone National Park, just a couple of tips. Firstly, if you come here between the months of October and April, you'll only be riding a snowplow. And secondly, the 100 miles that we've just done, we've done at a sedate 45 miles an hour because that's the speed limit. So if you do come here, take your time. Leaving the park is a wrench, but as we've done 100 miles at snail's pace, it's great to be able to wind the beast back up to cruising altitude. I'm off to ride a road that supposedly is one of the greatest in America. It's called the Beartooth Highway, which will take me to a little town called Red Lodge. The road traverses the Beartooth Mountains and rises up as high as 12,000 feet. I'm filled with expectation, but as I start to climb the mountain, it's obvious all is not well. What no one's told me is that a 30-mile stretch on top of the pass is being resurfaced, so that means dust, traffic jams, a beast that's turned against me, and the possibility I might not reach the bottom the right way up. I'm hacked off, totally frustrated, and couldn't give a monkey's about the views. Well, was that one of the most beautiful highways in the world? Probably not. It was actually a nightmare because of the roadworks. Also, apart from the roadworks, it's extremely windy. And the thing that people don't remember is that when you're on a motorcycle, if they say it's the most beautiful highway in the world, well, if they're really twisty and it's switchbacks and all that kind of stuff, you're concentrating so hard on the road ahead of you, you really don't have much time to look at the views.
Off the Beartooth Highway, the 20-mile ride to Red Lodge is lovely. No wind, no roadworks, and no dashed expectations.
Well, we're here at Red Lodge. The last bit of that ride was actually really nice, I have to admit. Don't get me wrong, you know, the Beartooth Highway would be amazing if there wasn't any roadworks, but there were. Anyway, I'm exhausted after all that, and we'll see what Red Lodge has to offer in the morning.
First light brings the potential joys of Red Lodge.
Well, Red Lodge is a quaint little town this morning. Whatever. Anyway, now look, right, it's the weather I want to talk about. Yesterday, even going over supposedly the most beautiful highway in the world that we all know wasn't, it was about 75 degrees. Suddenly this morning, the weather has closed in. It's now about 50 degrees, and I'm freezing.
But as I head out of Red Lodge, which by the way look rather nice, my luck must be in as the clouds part, allowing the hallowed sunshine to return. I've only got some 60 miles to ride now to Journey's End in Billings, the capital of Montana. What a ride it is! Wide, glorious, predictable highway, continually revealing images of Montana's farming heartland. After an hour or so, I ride into Billings, a town that's a perfect destination to end a bike ride, but as a tourist attraction, it's about as exciting as a smack in the head.
I can't believe everything's over so quickly. Billings is an incredibly quiet place by the look of it. Would you believe out of 800,000 people who live in Montana, 100,000 of them live here? They must all be out for the day. But I guess it's that time, as always, to reflect on whether riding America's Wild West was truly one of the world's greatest motorcycle rides.
And no surprises, it's a resounding yes. This ride has everything for anyone who wants to experience the American dream. Unbelievable empty roads, ever-changing, quite breathtaking landscape, fascinating locals, not forgetting perfect weather. But the Wild West has something so special. That is the total and all-pervading feeling of freedom and of being an individual. And as for my Saxon chop, I've tamed the beast, and what an experience that's been. This bike commands huge respect, but once earned, she's become a great friend. So much so, she's coming back to the UK and moving in with me.
So the good news is riding America's Wild West is surely one of the world's greatest motorcycle rides. I guess the bad news is now you've got to do 2 rides in America, this and Route 66, before you die.